Hi, just me again, Hirsch Saha, and in Auckland, New Zealand, with the date being Sunday, the 11th of August, 2019. One thing that I wanted to mention is actually, I must admit, not completely my own. It was something once told to me by a former co-worker who is now retired, but I worked with him for, I think it was a few years in the late 2000s, and he was a deeply religious man, and he had a very interesting sort of belief, if you like, or some would maybe call a philosophy about whether or not life is fair. And I never forget him saying, that he can't believe that some people still debate whether or not life is fair, because he thought that the answer was just so blatantly obvious that it's not. Of course, I think everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I can still see how some people would debate whether or not life is fair. And it's certainly a very, very deep, broad, controversial topic. So I could see how some people would still want to debate it, and people would come up with all sorts of conclusions, whether it's yes, completely 100% fair, or no, completely not, or and of course many areas in between. But this former colleague of mine told me he thought that it was obvious that life wasn't fair, and we got on very well together because he's been to India in his youth, India being my country of origin, and he used to tell me that and he told me in these words, when I see the drop dead gorgeous woman walk into an office and all say, or a room, and all the men just run to her and she has them in the palm of her hands, she can get jobs just like that, men just like that, you name it. And then when I see, the poor beggar on the streets of India, the man who only has two limbs, who is, crouched over, he can't even get up, he's on a board with only two wheels, not all four wheels, he's dragging himself by his arms, because he's got no legs, he's dragging himself by his arms on the road right next to moving traffic, and probably can't think of anything but begging for a few coins for a little bit of money just for his next meal. My colleague used to say, when I see those two extremes of that drop dead gorgeous woman and this poor Indian beggar, he says, well, it's pretty obvious life is not fair. Personally, I think you wouldn't have to even go that far. I would even say, just walk in any street of the world at any time, and you'd see one example after another of life being not fair. But I do think it's interesting what my former colleague said, and also how he added to it, because, like I said, mentioned earlier, he is a very religious man, and even though I'm not too deeply religious, I still think it's a very interesting concept what he had. He went beyond what he said, the two examples. So he concluded that life obviously is not fair, and he said that he also commented saying that, but why do you think that is? He said, if God had made every single aspect of life 100% fair on everyone, we'd all be in the exact same position. And actually, I do see exactly where he's getting at. I think also, again, some people would not agree with that. I'm sure some definitely would, but I definitely do see where he's getting at. If God had made every single aspect of life 100% fair on everyone, or if just say, if you don't believe in God, or if there turns out not to be one, or if it's something else, say Mother Nature or what have you, if every single aspect of life was 100% fair on everyone, we'll all be in the exact same position. I do actually see, personally, I do see a lot of truth in that statement. Um, you know, but so yeah, I thought that's something I'd mention because I think that was a very interesting concept, and I do think it's something that can spark a lot of debate, and something that whether you agree with or not, you'll probably have your own sort of opinion or even something to add to it. Personally, again, I would say that yes, I can definitely see that if every single aspect of life was 100% fair on everyone, we probably would be more or less in the exact same position. But I still think that whatever position you're in, or whatever cards you're dealt with in life, whatever you start off with, you can still have some impact on that. Without a doubt, not everything is in your control. There are some aspects that are just not in your control, but there are some that are, even if it's less than half or whatever it is. And working on those things, focusing on those things, and doing what you can, and comparing yourself only to yourself, no one else. That's what makes the difference, and that's what I believe in, and that's what I'll always try to focus on now and in the future. Cool. Thank you.